my name is Zachary Faust. I spent 6 years in the U.S. Army, served in one tour overseas to Afghanistan, came back, became a real estate agent after a short stint as a prison guard, and now I spend my free time deep diving, understanding, and unweaving the complex nature of our country's history and its economy. And oftentimes I run by strange things. Did you know the plan for our Federal Reserve was written up by a group of men who at the time were worth 26% of the entire world's wealth? Did you know that the same person who founded Blackstone, the private equity firm, was also the person who served on the Treasury Committee and presented Nixon the very economic graph that would lead him to releasing us from the gold standard in 71, just 4 or 5 months prior? Or did you know that in Frankfurt, Germany, a family would go on for 500 years to begin from coin trading all the way up to having their claws intertwined with the entire worldwide economy? Rothschild. Now, speaking purely theoretically out of pattern recognition, why is the government shut down, do you think? Could it be about health insurance premiums? Could it be about undocumented alien insurance? Could it be about... Let me just say one thing. Regardless of this shutdown, there is a congresswoman waiting to be sworn in out there on the West Coast. And she would be vote 218, I believe it is, to unlock the Epstein files at a Supreme Court level. But I find it odd when I think about the Rothschild family again and the connections and Epstein and the connections via things like the Paradise Papers to the JP Morgans of the world, to the Bank of Americas of the world, to the Morgan Stanleys of the world, to all of these banking institutions, Jamie Dimon-led banking-led institutions connected. Epstein chaired a company from 2001 to 2007 that helped crash the housing market out of Bermuda. All I'm saying is we know there's corruption every which way when we look back 10 years. So why is it we have this hard time with looking at corruption real time? Why is it we have this mental blockade to we can look at it that happened 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 40 or 80 or 100 years ago? You know the best way to figure out where something is going? Look at where it started. Look at where it started. You want to know what I think about the central bank? Look at Jekyll Island. Okay, you want to know what I think about the strength of the dollar internationally? Look at 1944. Look at 1974. Petrodollar Bretton Woods Act. Look at the fiat currency that developed from 71. Look at the jobs sent across the border since the 90s. Look at NAFTA. Look at Glass-Steagall. Look at the margin rule change at the SEC level in 2004. Look at everything all the way up to Citizens United and call it a wrap. I sincerely don't understand why we have a hard time understanding there could possibly be a little bit of misleading, a little bit of magician misdirection going on real time when we know Operation Chaos happened in the 60s. We know that the only reason we had a stagnant economy in the 70s is because we needed to go to Vietnam, war. All the way up to real time with Bibi Netanyahu. I mean, it's pattern recognition type thing, right? You know, if Republicans get what they want, okay, let's just play it what it is. Government shutdown. If Republicans get what they want, they have approached the voting table now 13 times. All 13 times, the Republicans have presented the same resolution, their original resolution, to our budget. A portion of SNAP benefit users and Medicaid users will be cut off, and health insurance premiums will double. The argument for the Republicans, though, is that Obamacare, and Trump said this, we need a new system. I don't think many Americans would disagree with we do need a new health insurance system, though when pressured for what's the plan, wasn't really too much of a plan. The Democratic side says it's a Republican shutdown. Why? Because every time they try to approach the negotiating table, the Republicans are not here to negotiate. So their side of the debate is, well, we're not voting on this same exact bill that we declined the first time. We need to shift it. We need to change it. And they've laid it out pretty specifically what they want to keep, what they want to take away. The problem with both is both will add debt, both will add to the deficit, and neither one is solving the core problems going on with cost of living, utility bills, and housing. All while the bond market continues to weaken, all while the dollar continues to lose strength, all while we keep seeing a deficit and a debt to GDP rise way above the 3% rate we should be at. That's just what Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, Thomas Sowell, and all of our good friend Milton Friedman said. Like, it seems like they're gridlocked on issues that are culturally relevant, that are going to affect people, that are going to do things to certain families in this country. And I don't think any of it's right. But I also understand we don't have limitless money, and we're running into a debt spiral. So something has to give somewhere, and I'm not here to make those decisions. All I'm saying is, what if the very fate of our country, our government even being alive, open, like it's somewhere asleep in the grass right now, where people aren't getting paid. There's jobs, especially in near government areas, state jobs, even county jobs, state broadcasting. Like, this stuff is losing funding, and banks are going to get tighter, especially at the local levels. Let's not be funny about it. There was a $50 billion withdrawal over since, I think, Halloween, and then the 2 weeks prior to that. Over that 2 week span, $50 billion tapped out of the standing repo facility. You can look up the graph. Google Federal Reserve Standing Repo Facility. That's the bank account of last resort. And it's because another rate went higher and they wanted to borrow at a lower rate and move it over here. But it's a sign of short-term liquidity issues. Banks not having money. All while inflation goes up and simultaneously mortgage and car rates went up. Outside of the AI bubble, top 7 companies out of the S&P 500 led heavy on the top side stock market that's up. There's not really anything good to point to in the economy, from a grocery cart of food now being somewhere in the $300 to $400 range, depending where you shop, to a used car payment in a subprime status being at a $533 a month payment on median. That's the middle. My point. What if the Epstein files are so important? It's so important that they do not get released, that no more evidence, no more names, no more affiliates get brought to the light, that it is worth sacrificing our economy. At the very least, suffering the short-term loss of food for the already impoverished. I don't care if you think 20%, 30%, 50% are fraudulent or illegal or anything. They're people with kids, children, okay? And even if it's 50%, there's another 50% that absolutely does need it, that works their tail off, both of them in the household, doing everything they can, single moms, single dads, doing everything they can, guardians, taking over after a death, taking over after someone got addicted to drugs, good people, doing everything they physically can to get by, and it's not working. They need the supplementation to keep the system operating, you ass. Sorry to be like that, but listen. The same exact people that are making sure your Amazon delivery gets in, your DoorDash delivery gets in, your Uber is ready and on time, are the same exact people having to grind all the extra hours just to make ends meet, and they're still struggling. And for congressmen to just be literally getting paid as they do nothing but a WWE of, it's the Republicans' fault, it's the Democrats' fault, it's the Republican shutdown, it's the Democrats. Do something. Be adults. Talk. Communicate. What is this BS? I'm not here to say even what the right answer in the middle is. I'm not. Honestly, I'm not here to say there's a given answer in the middle that I'm advocating for. All I'm saying is there has to be something. There has to be some way. And it doesn't seem like they're giving even an inch when we have a mile to go. We're approaching the longest government shutdown in our history, and it is going to lead to more poverty. It's going to lead to empty bellies. And if you know anything about what that leads to crime-wise, people should be worried. Long term, this can be a drastic problem, a further growth in the wealth gap from those that are dependent on that 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours, overtime and bonuses every single week just to simply get by and feed their kids, are now being told, could it be something more important making this happen? Something more drastic, something more prioritized? Again, I go back to, I want you to look through the lens of how you view the FBI in the 60s, or the CIA with MLK or JFK, right? I want you to view it with that fervor. Oh, we need the files. We need to know who it was. We know it was y'all. And for people, push. Why aren't we doing that real time? At the very least, we deserve a functioning government. At the very least, we deserve a functioning government. And at the very least, food, shelter, and education should be a national right. Like, just leave it at that. Meet in the middle. Have a conversation. When I look at the pattern recognition of things, every day that goes by, it seems like there's something else that we're not putting in the media sphere, that's not going into the media cycle, that's going red, blue, left, right, red, blue, while they're just worried about green. They're worried about their own status. They're worried about their own companies. They're worried about their own lineage. lineage. And speaking of lineage, just wrap this all up. Comment if you're here right now. I want to make sure people actually heard this part. Alan Dershowitz was Epstein's attorney. Alan said, "Oh no, we're not friends. I was introduced to them by the Rothschild family." Real-time conspiracies.